I used to run a workshop on habits, and I do speak about habits a lot because obviously the brain works that way. So the interesting thing about the brain is that obviously it drives everything, it's the control center. But the really interesting thing is that everything that you do is formed from habit. Okay, so we can talk about neuroplasticity, all your behaviors, all your beliefs, all your thoughts, all your actions, everything that you do your entire life is made up of these habits, right? Neurons that fire together wire together, which is heavy in theory. Okay, so easiest way to think of it is we can talk about the stages of learning. This is kind of what I put into a habits workshop a couple of years ago. When we talk about the stages of learning, we're talking about integrating neuroplasticity into our life. All right. So what that means is, let's say you're 16 years of age and you're learning to drive a manual car. Now, when you first get in the car, you are unconsciously incompetent. Okay. You've got no idea what you don't know. And, you don't know where the accelerator is, you don't know where the brake pedal is, you don't know where the indicator is, you think the indicators are your wipers, you've got no idea, right? And then obviously you go for your first driving lesson, you start to figure these things out. Now, after a driving lesson or two, or hopefully in the first one, but after one or two, you start to become consciously incompetent, all right? You're aware of what you don't know. You realize that, okay, there's stuff here, I can figure it out, but it's gonna take me a little while. Okay, you go down that path for a little bit, and you start to get the lessons, and you start to integrate some things, and all of a sudden you start to get it. You start to understand where the friction point is on the clutch, and then you become consciously competent. So you can think about it, and you're good at it. You still stall at lights a couple of times. You might bunny hop here and there, but you are like when you're actually concentrating, you're not distracted by a passenger, or think of someone on their P's. You're not distracted by obviously your phone or a radio or anything like that. Then if you're focused, you can do a fairly good job. But if you're not, you get distracted, then obviously everything goes to hell and you mess up and you stall the engine and whatever happens, right? After a point in time, you start to become unconsciously competent. You don't have to think about it. You've integrated it into habit, and all of a sudden you're driving down the highway. You don't even realize where you are, and you forget the last 20 minutes of how you got there. Okay, that's when it becomes a complete habit and it's integrated into your system. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to control it. It just happens, especially on your way to work when it's 6:30 in the morning and you haven't had your coffee and you're not thinking about anything, right? So these are the stages of learning. This is how things become habit. Your entire body works that way. Everything you believe and do and say, and all your systems work in the same way because the brain works the same way throughout the body. Obviously, the brain, the spinal column has nerves and it talks to the rest of the body and it integrates it in this way. All right. But the thing is, that sounds out of control. It sounds really difficult to get a handle on. Now, when I say habit, you might think of, drinking alcohol or smoking or, some of these bad habits. All right. But driving is just as much a habit now as smoking would be. Okay, so it's not necessarily a bad habit, just everything that you do. But I started to want to take control of these things. All right, I started to want to get a handle of things, and I wanted to help my clients get a handle of things. And calling it a habit sounds like it's subconscious, like it's ingrained, and like it's going to be really difficult to change. So let's change that a little bit. Let's reframe that. Instead of calling it a habit, call it a ritual. All right. So just like brushing your teeth in the morning, that's a habit. But if you start to call it a ritual, it's something that you do every day in order to respect yourself. All right? It's creating the man that you want to be. It's the behavior of the person that you want to be that day. It's creating your character for that day. All right? So if you start to integrate these things as rituals, these are tasks that you complete, just like brushing your teeth, just like whatever thing you do in the morning, whatever your thing is, whatever routine you have, these are the rituals you have to celebrate yourself and pay your self-respect and take care of yourself. Now, if some of these rituals aren't serving you, we might call them bad habits. They're not really bad habits. They're things that you've integrated into your day and they're there for a very good reason. But if they're just rituals, we can also change them because you choose these actions. So choose something that honors you, because those rituals might be honoring you or they may be desecrating you. So what are your rituals doing? You get to decide.